Hey, it's JP from the Junkies. Football season is finally back, and BetQL is ready to help you win more consistently this year. BetQL is an absolute game changer if you're looking to find trends to help you win. Make smarter bets on spreads, totals, player props, and more. BetQL has already helped over 300,000 people with powerful analytics and community insights. Don't fumble away your cash this football season. Visit BetQL.com for their free daily analysis today. That's BetQL.com.
If you have sleep apnea and struggle with CPAP, consider that CPAPs were invented in 1980. Do you even remember 1980? Everyone's house had one telephone. There were like 4 TV channels. Now, for people who struggle with CPAP, there's Inspire. Inspire treats sleep apnea inside your body at the click of a remote. No mask, no hose, just sleep. To learn more, visit InspireSleep.com. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Now it's time for another fanschmabulous episode of
The Bob and Jeff Show, starring Bob Lutz.
You're going to tell this listening audience, who adores me, let's be honest.
Oh, behave.
Jeff Lutz.
I'm spreading my wing. This is me to the nth degree.
Wow! Hey! Isn't that exciting? 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Stand by for action.
All right, here is your action. Welcome to the Bob and Jeff Show here on KFH Radio. Bob Lutz, Jeff Lutz co-hosting. Max Power producing and engineering. 869-1240, the IHOP hotline. We're going to get to an interview here in a little bit, but let's welcome in Jeff, who's...
Welcome in.
How you been?
I host the show. I don't need to be welcome.
Nice to have you. How you been?
I'm not a guest. I'm fine.
Why are you so surly all of a sudden?
I don't need to be welcomed.
Welcome in. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to you.
I always open the show, and
I could open it.
Welcome you in, and then we get rolling.
I don't need to be welcomed. I'm already here.
Well, if there were a door you could come in, I'd have you do that. Yeah.
Why?
Well, I don't know, just to welcome you in.
It's not a visual,
a better way.
It's not a visual medium.
Here's what we're going to do today. What's on tap at 2:10 or thereabouts? Wichita Windsurge catcher Patrick Winkel will join the show. Windsurge in a key homestand, their last series of games of the year against Midland tonight out at Riverfront Stadium. They trail the Springfield Cardinals by 2 games with 4 left in the Texas League East. How do I feel about that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I'd like to see the Windsurge get to play in the postseason, but this is my Cardinals.
I don't know. I don't know that it matters one way or another, to be truly honest.
Well, don't I want to see the young birds in
4 or 5 more games? Maybe.
Get some postseason experience? Or would I rather have us Wichitans potentially get to go out to Riverfront a few more times?
It'd be nice to continue the streak. The Windsurge in their previous 2 years were in the playoffs. It'd be cool if they got in a third time, especially with a different type of season that it's been. A lot of turnover. Their best players got called up around midway through the season, and they turned it on after that, and here they are still in the race.
Well, that's why I'm torn to some degree.
There's no need to be torn.
Oh, I am.
I don't care if Akron gets into the playoffs. You know what I'm saying?
I do care.
At Double-A, I don't care.
We got Palm Beach. We got Peoria. They're both in. Both of our A-level teams are in the playoffs. Memphis isn't going to get in, so why not get the Double-A team in?
Sure.
These are things I concern myself with.
Well, concern yourself with them.
Well, I don't know why you're poo-pooing it.
But for me, if Lake County doesn't make the playoffs, I'll be fine.
Well, they're not making the playoffs.
I have no idea.
You don't follow your minor league
I follow
franchise.
the stats. I don't follow the wins and losses.
Well, I do.
Okay, well then go for it.
To me, postseason experience is a valuable thing.
I wonder what Lake County's record is.
I don't care what Lake County's record is. You got Lake County. You got who's your single A or low A?
Lynchburg.
Then your double A team is Akron,
and
your
Columbus.
triple A team is Columbus.
Yes.
I don't think any of those teams are in the playoffs, which is, for the Guardians is fitting. I like to get teams into the playoffs.
Well, you should like it. To me, it's the minor leagues. I like to get my major league team into the playoffs. That hasn't happened for either of us this year.
So anyway, you got 4 nights left that you know the Wind Surge, 3 nights, and then the Sunday 105 game, the nightcap potentially to the season. How many of those games are you working out at the
One.
Just one?
Saturday.
They kind of backed off from you or what?
No, I was supposed to work Friday, but I have to work at Channel 12.
Oh, what's going on at Channel 12?
They want me there on high school nights.
Oh, high
remember?
school. High school football.
Yes.
What's your just to keep the keep things churning? What?
I guess. Yeah, we'll find out more tomorrow, I guess, of exactly what's expected. of me.
Get over there to catch at Kansas for
I'll
your
go
high
after
school
the show.
coverage. No, I'm saying get to. I'm telling our listeners.
Of course.
What do you mean you'll go after the show? What does that mean?
I'll go to work after the show.
So you don't have to be there during the day Friday.
Correct.
No, I guess that's good.
It's a nice gig.
Anyway, we'll talk with Patrick Winkel at 2:10. At 2:25, I figured we'd step outside of the area and talk to the Ashland coach,
Oh, yeah?
Ben Fox. I believe they're the defending champs in 6-man. They're ranked number 1 in 6-man right now. And I just got intrigued yesterday and said, you know what? I want to talk to this guy about 6-man football in the state of Kansas.
Well, that's awesome. Me and Jason Duda thought of that months ago, but if we want to do it again today, that's great.
Well, who'd you talk to?
The Cunningham coach, as they...
Well, the Cunningham coach doesn't have nearly as much to say.
What do you mean? He was in the state championship game.
Did he win it?
I don't know.
I got the winner.
Did Ashland definitely win it?
At 2:45, our annual visit, something we've come to look forward to. Al Petrelli from Trans Siberian Orchestra. They're going to be in Wichita as we get closer to the Christmas season. We were afforded the opportunity to talk again with Al, and he will join us today at 2:45. And in hour number 2 at 3:25, our third week of football picks. Not a lot of great options this week. The college
I'm surprised we're not picking Colorado again.
They play Colorado State.
Penn State,
But
Illinois?
we'll pick them the next week against USC or Oregon, and then probably the next week against USC.
I
So
hear you, but Penn State, Illinois.
Penn State, Illinois. You know, it's a Big Ten game.
KU just hammered Illinois.
As I said, it's not the greatest week.
I understand, so let's have some fun with
No, I'm
it.
not having
Let's
fun.
get into Coach
No, I'm
Prime
not
a little
doing
bit.
fun.
Yeah, I know.
I'm doing what I want to do.
Cunningham was the 6-man champs last year.
What Ashland do?
They lost to Cunningham in the state title game.
Well, I'd prefer getting Ben on. Young guy's got long hair. I can't wait to hear
Lance
what he
McGuire, we had him on. He was nice.
Who?
Lance McGuire.
Lance is a great guy. Known him forever.
You have?
He's been coaching forever, hasn't he?
I don't know.
You know what? I just let it all hang out on this show. Do you enjoy that?
Lance appears to be a pretty young guy.
I'm asking you some
I don't
questions.
care. I mean, do whatever you want.
You don't care about me. Is that what you're telling the
no,
audience?
That's not what I said.
You should care.
Do whatever you want. This is...
But you've been in an angry mood.
No, I haven't.
Chris Davis, our friend, texted you yesterday and said, I'm grouchy.
Yeah.
Does he not listen to this thing?
How am I grouchy?
Oh, my God. You just sound upset.
I don't think I'm upset.
I've never been happier.
Well,
Went out
good.
last night to eat. Just had a wonderful time.
Where'd you go?
You know.
You're not going to tell me, of course.
We went to Spears.
That doesn't still exist, does it?
Yes.
By the mall? Or
Yeah.
what it was once the
And
mall?
It's really good, and no one was there. I don't get it. Apparently, they do their business in the mornings and for lunch. They have I had a very good meal.
For dinner.
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
What'd you have?
immensely. We'll talk about it later.
I'd like to talk about it now. If you
Yeah,
don't
we'll
mind.
get it. We're going to get to Patrick Winkel right now. Wichita Wind Surge. They're at home tonight, 7:15, 7:05 first pitch against Midland. Hello, Patrick. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
It's going well. We appreciate you coming on. So you've got 4 games left. You're 2 games out now behind Springfield. They won their game last night. You guys were defeated in a close one by Midland. How much fun is it to kind of play in this kind of a playoff pressure atmosphere?
It's really fun. I mean, obviously we haven't played the best couple of games in the last maybe 3 or 4 days, but if you see the clubhouse after the game, like everyone's super excited. This is exactly why we play. I mean, there's no better feeling than having a chance to make the playoffs, especially when you got the last week is home and we're going to have 10,000 people at the game on Saturday. So, all those things combined, it makes it for a really fun last couple of days.
It's weird because the season kind of turned in a way when the three guys, Brooks Lee, Deshaun Kersey, and Junior Severino got called up to St. Paul, and you think that would mean it took a turn for the worse, but it really got better at that point. What do you think happened inside the clubhouse, on the field, just to kind of keep you guys on track after that happened?
Well, I think it wasn't so much that those guys leaving that kind of changed anything. I think it was more about the time frame. I mean, obviously, those guys leaving kind of marked the end of kind of a drought we were having. And I think at the same time when they were leaving, everyone in the clubhouse kind of just decided, hey, baseball's fun regardless. Why not win games, right? So let's just have fun with it. Let's take the rest of the season and just kind of play loose, play relaxed, play with each other. And that's kind of what happened right then. So, yeah, those guys left, but I think the change even happened a little bit before then. And it was more of just guys playing together and trying to enjoy the time that we had, on this team.
Talking with Wichita Windsurge catcher Patrick Winkel. Let's talk a little bit about your baseball career. Drafted by the Yankees, round 31 back in 2018, and you've steadily made progress. You're having your best year in professional baseball this year at Double-A with the Windsurge. Are you one of those guys where it's kind of coming together for you? Is that how you feel about it, Patrick?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, baseball's a funny game, right? It's constant evaluation of what works and what doesn't. So over the last couple of years, I've just been able to kind of see what works as far as hitting and catching goes and kind of what doesn't. And honestly, just try to mold the best player you can out of, the positive things you could do. So with this year in particular, started very slow offensively. And if you look at kind of, my stance, the way that I was swinging, stuff like that at the beginning of the year versus now, it's completely different. And that's the great thing about having a long season like we do is you have time and resources with the coaching staff that we have to kind of attack those changes and kind of find a new path of what might work. So that's kind of what's happened this year. And honestly, just continuing to do it and looking for one to finish the year strong and have a good offseason and come back the same way next year.
What, Patrick, have you noticed about the Twins in player development, their approach to the catching position? Because it seems like the 3 years that the Windsurge have existed, they've tried to work in 3 or 4 catchers, on the Double-A team, even at a time. And there's kind of been 3 this year, Ben Walos and Alex Isola. So obviously that's to keep your legs fresh. But is there any part of you that's like, I'm young, I'm on the way up, I could probably play every day if I needed to, or something close to that?
Honestly, not so much. I mean, I think the way that they manage the catching staff is really, really good. No one's getting burned out, but no one's going super long without getting starts in. So I think it's a really beneficial way that they're kind of making the lineup too. Gives you a couple days on, and then you can evaluate kind of if there are any changes or adjustments you need to make, and you can work on those on the off day, and then come back the next day ready to kind of implement the changes or the different mindset that you kind of worked on the day before.
Talking with Patrick Winkel of the Windsurge. They're in action tonight at Riverfront Stadium against Midland. Thanks for not jumping down my throat and correcting me. You were taken out of high school by the Yankees in the 31st round. Instead went to UConn, improved your lot, 9th-round draft pick by the Twins in 2021. So what is it that when you got into pro ball that they told you, here's what we need from you, here's what you got to do, and how have you worked on making those improvements?
Well, that's kind of one of the things that I noticed about pro ball very early is, being able to go to college and kind of see what the atmosphere like is there versus pro ball. In college, it's very much about winning, right? You got to win to make a regional, to make a college World Series. You got to win to keep your program kind of alive. But once you get the pro ball, obviously it's about the big league club that matters the most. And the minor leagues is that they really want you to try things and find ways to improve your own game, right? So the emphasis, obviously winning games is the most important thing always, but you have the freedom to try different things and see what works the best for you. and kind of pick and choose the different aspects of your game that you want to keep or change, and they're here to guide you along with that. So that's kind of the biggest thing is when I got in here, they said, let's work on the catching, let's work on the hitting, but they weren't like, you need to do this, that, and the other thing. They let kind of me figure out, and a lot of other guys, what works the best for them while just kind of guiding us along this path.
So there have been 34 pitchers come in through Wichita this season at some point or another. I can't imagine what that's like for you as a catcher. Just endless preparation, I'm sure, to go through game plans and learn those pitchers. What has that been like for you? And how do you kind of focus on you in some of those instances? You got to hit too, and you want to do your own thing on some level. So how do you approach that?
Yeah, so obviously, when you're a catcher, that's got to be the most important thing, right? So hitting always will take a backseat to some degree. Not saying it's not important, obviously it is, but when you're a catcher, you're very much working for the pitching staff. With so many guys coming in, it could be a little bit overwhelming. But honestly, the thing that I found to be the best is as long as you can catch maybe one of their bullpens or see how their pitches move at least one time, you'll have a decent idea about what they'll do in the game. The last thing you want is to have a guy come in and pitch in a game that you've never caught before, because then you're trying to learn their tendencies and their pitch movements in the most, I guess, stressful situation, which is during the game. So as long as you could be prepared and try to get with the pitchers and catch them at least once before they have to get into a game, you should be all set.
Final moments here with Patrick Winkel of the Wind Surge. So you may have 4 games left in the season. Who knows? You may get to the playoffs and play some more. Do you know what your fall and winter plans look like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, whenever the season's over, hopefully we go as far as we can in the playoffs and take home a championship for Wichita. But regardless, when that's over, I'll be back in Florida training with Twins coaches and the staff there at their academy in Florida, and enjoying my time down in Florida with my fiance, and honestly just looking to get back for a really good 2024 season.
Fiance, huh? Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Just real quick, Patrick, you caught Paddock the other night, right?
Yes, I did.
So what do you kind of like more? You've faced a couple big leaguers on rehabs on the opposing team. Now you've caught a big leaguer or two here in Wichita on rehab. So which do you like better?
Hitting or catching them?
Yeah.
I would definitely say catching them. I mean, just me being a catcher, one is, it's not as easy to hit a big leaguer, but when you catch a big leaguer, it's great to get into their head and see kind of what their mindset is, what their preparation's like. And kind of see how diligent they work. And honestly, you could learn a lot from them. So, having Paddock here and being able to talk with him and then, take him through a warm-up and into the game, it was a really great experience, and honestly learned a ton from him.
All right, good stuff. We appreciate it. One question, because you're a Connecticut guy, and you've been around. Mm-hmm. You've played professionally now in Florida, and you're in Wichita now. Anything stand out about your time in Wichita here besides just playing baseball and going to the stadium and all that entails? Have you found any restaurants you like? Any nightlife? How's that all gone?
Not a big nightlife guy. I am more of like a breakfast morning guy, and honestly, very, very pleasantly surprised with the breakfast places here. Love Mocha's Cafe, really like Homegrown. That's a very popular spot for breakfast in the morning. But, overall, I love Wichita. I mean, it's a great place. It's a great area. The ballpark's awesome. The fan base is great. So really no complaints.
And you hope like heck you're never back here again, right?
Well, I mean, no comment.
We appreciate it. Patrick, thanks so much for being on. Best of luck the rest of the season. Appreciate
it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
All right, Patrick Winkel, catcher for the Wind Surge. They've gotten a lot of production out of their catchers. David Banuelos has 9 homers. Patrick Winkel has 9 homers. So combined, they have 18 homers, 75 RBIs, a very good OPS. Defensively, they could use a little help, but pretty good hitters.
Yeah, and they're often hit in the middle of the order, and Alex Isola has caught a little bit. I don't think he's going to continue for very much longer, but yeah, they've gotten some production there.
Yeah, Banuelos has a OPS of 899.
He can hit.
All right, good stuff. As we talk Wichita Wind Surge baseball, we'll be back and talk some Ashland High School football. They are currently ranked number 1 in six-man football. I remember when Ashland was a pretty darn good 2A team. Now they're playing six-man.
It happens.
Another example of what's happened in some of the smaller communities. We'll talk with their head coach, Ben Fox, next.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
One for All, the musical theme, songs with the word one in the title. That's Rita Marley with One Draw. Ben Fox joins us, the head football coach at Ashland. They are currently undefeated at 2-0, ranked number 1 in six-man football. Ben, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Just getting ready for a home junior high football game tonight and a big Friday game here.
There you go. I know you're an Ashland guy. You went to high school there. When did you graduate?
I graduated in 2011. My brother, who's my assistant, one of my assistants, graduated the year after 2012. So,
okay. So how much have things changed in Ashland in those 10, 11, 12 years?
Not a whole lot. Some of the same families, some new faces. Still a small town, still small school. We played 8-man coming through. Our father and uncle played 11-man, won an 11-man state championship as they came through Ashland. And so things have changed there. We're in a smaller division. My first year as head coach, we took over, had 9 boys playing 8-man, and his numbers weren't great. And we've gotten it raised every year since then, and up to 18 guys on our roster now this year, and feel good about that. It makes practice go well, and just having bodies to compete with is a big deal. You know, each year having a few more boys.
What does your middle school? Do they play 6-man, or they play 8-man, or 11?
Well, yeah, that's it. It is junior high, middle school kind of goes year by year. We've, with 2 grades, 7th and 8th grade. Sometimes we don't, you need at least probably 5 boys a class out to have 10 boys to play an 8-man schedule. And they've done that independently and just, play with 8, 9, 10 guys. We've co-opted with some other schools nearby and done that. And now, yes, this year they are playing a 6-man schedule. In junior high, middle school right now, our group still plays 6-man by the 8-man rules. So a little bit different game.
So obviously you have to be very hands-on. You're getting them prepared for 6-man football, but I'm sure there's a pretty big adjustment from year to year, even, game to game sometimes.
Yeah, right, actually. So I'm not the junior high coach. I love helping them out and stuff. My head football coach who coached me in high school, Jesse Stebbins, is the junior high coach. And so we use our high school boys to run the chain gang at the home games and run the press box and things like that. So, it's they're getting more familiar with the 6-man game, and that should be a big benefit, in the next few years as we get those guys.
Now, for our listeners wondering, Ashland is out in southwestern Kansas along Highway 400 or 54.
We're south,
pretty
of Dodge
close
City.
to there.
Yeah. Yep, south of Dodge City, about an hour. kind of near the Oklahoma border, way out southwest. So we still actually have quite a few 6-man teams west of us. We still go west for some games, so we aren't the furthest west, but we are probably about the furthest 6-man south team.
So some would call me old. I refer to myself as experienced. I've been around a long time, and I used to cover high school football for the Wichita Eagle, and Ashland was one of those traditional powers under Larry Rich. That football tradition still remains, right? I mean, that's a football community.
Absolutely, yeah. It's, the stadium and, Larry Rich, Tom Gilmore, those are guys, Coach Jim Gillespie. Those guys kind of got that program rolling with some big state championships back in 76 and 80. And kind of were powerhouse all the way through there. We grew up, our fathers played for Coach Rich, Coach Gilmore, Coach Gillespie, and a lot of that stuff, just through word of mouth or, stories of some of their other players that are still around town, pass on the stories of those guys and what it meant to them, to kind of go through their system and come out and be the men they are.
How many really good or great or good players do you feel like you need to have to really succeed and be competing like for a state championship like you did last year? You have a guy, Cale Harris, who's probably your best player on both sides of the ball. So do you feel like some nights that's enough and we can kind of just fill in around that?
No, great question, though. No, one guy, we see it, with these smaller schools they might have one guy that two guys that kind of can shine and filling in other spots with, with whatever they can, with low numbers. And that's kind of the reality of it. I want to say you need to have 3-4. I think 3-4 is your number on guys that can make a play. I think 2 is, a defense can focus on 2, guys, 2 key guys. 3, it starts to get hard to focus on 3 guys with only 6. And when you get to 4 or 5, then you're going to win some of those one-on-one matchups that we see in the, open field and things like that.
Ben Fox, our guest, head coach at Ashland High School. They are ranked number 1 currently in 6-man football here in the state of Kansas. One of those wins was in your season opener against Cunningham. They beat you in the state title game last year. That had to have some value.
Yeah, that was a big win for the program. They got us twice last year, actually. Week 1, we played them last year to start, kind of knowing they were one of the top teams in the state. Played a good game. Not many teams competed with that Cunningham team last year, and we were one of the few, but they did get us both times. So starting the year with that big win, we spent all summer, winter, through basketball season, track season, through the summer, thinking about that first game. They were the last team that beat us in the championship game, and so it was a big deal. Looking forward to that, and now we're facing just as big of a game this week with Cheyenne, Bird City. They talk about a team that has, they have, more. They're over that 2-3 player, playmakers, big time guys that will be hard to get matchups right on them because they'll just move them all over the field.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned you played 8-man football. Your father played 11-man football. Now you're coaching 6-man football. If somebody comes to you and says, why do we even do it with 6-man football? What's your answer?
For these communities, why when Cunningham was kind of making the decision to go in, get in on the 2-year cycle, I was one of the coaches, and another coach, he's now one of my assistants, Coach Chambers, was at Pawnee Heights. I remember we went over to Cunningham and did kind of a town hall town hall meeting and took a bunch of questions from parents of players and community members and athletic directors and kind of wanted to make sure they had been co-oping their high school program, and they, getting football back at their community in their stadium, in your small town is a big deal. And, a couple years later, they have a state championship, and that program's just flourishing with Coach McGuire. And, we went from winning one game that first year, 8-man, and just didn't have the numbers to compete. And it just lets these communities, these small town kids, still get to play the game of football.
Is it your goal? I don't know if the school has the numbers to support it, but would you like to get back to 8-man? Does it even matter to you as long as you're coaching and kids are playing?
Good question. Yeah, if the numbers take us back there, we love football. But actually we're having a great time. The 6-man game, there's a couple different rules that make it different enough from 8 and 11-man. There's still blocking, tackling, throwing, catching, ball security things. But it just a few wrinkles on like 1st and 15, or that can't do any kind of quarterback sneak. There has to be some kind of exchange in the 6-man game, and that changes things. And it's fun it's a fun challenge to try to adapt to. And we're really liking it. But if we go back to 8, we'd be pumped for that. It's still football, but we're loving the 6-man. And some of these coaches in the 6-man division are, they've coached 11-man or they've coached 8-man, played 8-man, and we hear from them all the time. I don't know how I'd go back to coaching 8-man or coaching 11-man. This game's so fun to watch, so fun to coach. So that's kind of where we stand.
Ben Fox with us, Ashland's head football coach, and you gave a great answer on why 6-man's appealing and why these communities stay involved. And it is about the community. I mean, you couldn't imagine Ashland without football. Yep. You couldn't imagine some of these schools and towns without a high school. It's a shame to see what's happened in so many small towns, but to try to keep a tie to that past, extremely important, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. When if a little town like ours loses a school, it's bad news. There's stories all around us out here that little community school couldn't stay afloat, or couldn't stay staffed, whatever it is. And you lose the school, and you lose the town goes pretty quick after that. Goes to a ghost town, maybe just some houses, and maybe you lose your grocery store and gas station, stuff like that. And so it's a big deal for communities and families here. We've seen it here. We've seen it places like Cunningham and some of those teams up north that were at the beginning of this 6-man stuff, trying it early before even Keisha was okay in it. Weskin and Cheylin and Golden Plains, some of those schools that have been doing it for years now without Keisha.
Well, good stuff. I'm glad we had the talk. Cheylin coming from quite a ways away, right, to play Friday night. Sure. Bird City's not just an easy drive, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not. We took that trip up to see them last year, and luckily got an afternoon game. We couldn't get referees. That's another situation the state's facing is lack of referees available, and we have them, but they couldn't get to an earlier start this year, and so that trip will be tough for them. But that's 6-man. We travel a lot to go play the teams that are going to give us the competition we need. So we know we'll have that, this Friday.
I'm not breaking news to you, but they've outscored their 2 opponents so far 97-0. So that ought to be quite a game.
We've seen that. Yeah, Coach Walden and Coach McCarty, both of those guys over there. Coach McCarty's son's playing. And like I said, they've got a few of those playmakers that are, in 6-man anything, on any one snap, one guy get loose in a missed tackle, and so we know how dangerous they are. And just love competitive Friday night football for our high school guys, and the 6-man game's so fun.
Thanks very much, Ben. Really good talking to you. Good luck the rest of the way.
Great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, Ben Fox, head football coach at Ashland. Coming up, Bird City Cheyenne.
It's a big one.
They later have a game against Northern Valley. That's another school that used to be really good in football. Where's Northern Valley located?
Up in the Northern Valley.
But what little community, what little town?
It's got to be. I'm going to think it's going to be.
You don't have a clue.
No, I'm going to try to. It's in the,
Almena. Where's Greeley County High School?
Tribune.
Very good. What'd you do? Just look it up? What about Western Plains?
Is that Tipton?
That's Healy. What about Triplanes?
Don't know.
That's Brewster.
Dang, I used to know all these.
And then Golden Plains.
Nope.
That's Rexford.
Okay.
68 years old, still remembering all that.
That's beautiful. Congratulations.
Al Petrelli joins us from Trans Siberian Orchestra. They're headed to Wichita in December for their holiday show. Hello, Al.
How you doing, my friend? How you been?
Oh, we're good. We're always happy to have you with us. It's amazing what you guys continue to do year after year. So just tell us about that aspect of this, the longevity of Trans Siberian Orchestra and the overwhelming success this band has had for many years.
Oh, God. Well, it's approaching 3 decades now. It's 28 years since this thing first opened its eyes. I think that part of the reason for the longevity is the stories that Paul O'Neill had written. I think that the folks in your community and some of the other communities really relate to the stories. I read an interesting quote the other day by Leonard Bernstein, and he said that, a true artist, a great composer, his work becomes very, very accessible, but it's never ordinary. And I found that to be really, really important. And I read it a couple times, and I think that sums up Paul O'Neill's work in one phrase. Everybody understands the story. It's very accessible to people from, young ages right through older folks, But there's nothing ordinary about that. There's nothing ordinary about his work, his music, his story, and the show. And I think that every year, we try to do better than the previous year. And the folks that come back every year to see us year after year, I consider them our repeat offenders. They see it getting better. They see it growing up like one of their children. And I think they have a vested interest in it, and they feel like it's part of them. It's certainly part of their holiday tradition.
You're obviously a very talented guitarist. You could probably be involved in any project you wanted to be involved in. What do you get creatively, personally, professionally, artistically from and through Trans Siberian Orchestra that you don't get anywhere else?
I think it's all encompassing musically, and that's the best part of it. I never get bored. 1 minute I'm playing a Mozart symphony on the guitar. Next minute, I'm playing some ragtime Leon Russell style boogie piano thing on piano. I get to, be a guitar player and shred on occasion. But I think more importantly, one of the things that Paul would constantly tell me is that at the end of the lyric, my responsibility is to carry on the statement and the story that Paul was telling. And to do that instrumentally is a little bit more difficult. And that really allowed me to dig deeper into my entire musical education and just find ways of being expressive in context of Paul's work, almost like how you would score a film, And so I really, I don't get too jammed up in any one particular style. If I'm not playing electric guitar, I'm playing acoustic, I'm playing classical guitar. I get to do it all under the heading of the Trans Siberian Orchestra, which is really a lot of fun for me.
Al Petrelli, our guest, Trans Siberian Orchestra here in Wichita in Trust Bank Arena, coming up on December the 6th. You've been doing this a long time. You played in Alice Cooper's band. You were a member of Megadeth. My goodness, did you ever envision a time in those early years that you'd be doing with a band that was so synonymous, even though it's a rock and roll group, so synonymous with Christmas, Al?
Never in a million years, my friend. I couldn't have scripted this. If you would have told me this story 30 years ago, I would have been like, I knew that my always pursuit of learning more, always wanting to grow as an artist, always, there's so much more work I have to do as a musician. I constantly want to get better, and in retrospect, I looked at my tenure with Alice Cooper as like part of my education that was getting me ready for Paul O'Neill. The time I spent with Dave Mustaine and Megadeth was getting me ready for my time spent with Paul O'Neill. Everything I've really ever done, even like playing the trumpet in the third grade band in the elementary school, somehow was getting me ready for this situation that presented itself in 1995.
Is it the logistic part of the tour or the creative part of the tour that comes first when planning? Do you book arenas and get every musician on board and everything like that, or is it planning the show itself and knowing exactly how it's going to look and feel?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, right now, the O'Neill family and our management team is already booking, they're putting holds on buildings for the 2024 tour. So this thing, it takes a long time to get it up and running. And then, the task at hand for me is to make sure that this tour is musically as perfect as it can be and better than last year. And then, the first 2 weeks of January, everybody will kind of exhale a little bit, take a break, and then immediately jump back into meetings and conferences. Now what do we do? So the band has been intact. I'd say like 95% of the folks in the band have been with me for, 20-something years now. So I don't like messing up a good chemistry. It's like having, a dynasty football team. Don't break it. Don't mess with it. This works, and it works really, really well. And they're constantly, growing and getting better as players, not only individually, but collectively as an ensemble. And that's priceless.
Yeah, if you go see Trans Siberian Orchestra, you're seeing a style of music that you don't see that often. It's a potpourri. I want to ask you kind of a theoretical, philosophical question. My son and I are both fans of the Eagles. Okay, they're on their final goodbye tour or whatever they're calling it.
Long goodbye.
Long goodbye. They're playing the hits, but they're not stepping outside of their comfort zone at all. That's something you do all the time. They're just playing the hits. They're doing what the fans want, but there's some pushback in their fan base about this is the last time we might see you. Why don't you do something a little bit off the beaten path? You see what we're saying, and do you kind of see their side of it too?
Well, I can't comment on the Eagles because I haven't, seen any of the shows on this tour. I've been a huge fan of all of their entire catalog since I was a kid. For me personally, I would rather stay in a perpetual state of discomfort at all times because that means I'm growing or I'm learning or I'm doing something that I'm not really comfortable with, And I've always felt that if you're uncomfortable, you're growing. For me, if I'm comfortable, I'm not really doing anything that's breaking any new ground, and I still have a long journey ahead of me as an artist and as a musician, and as a man, as a father, in every way.
But you wouldn't, Al. I don't know you obviously, but I know enough about you and Trans Siberian Orchestra. You guys change it up as much as any band out there, and that's part of your living, breathing, right? I mean,
every year it's got to be
do
different.
That.
Yeah, we have to. Again, staying uncomfortable. If we did the same exact thing every year without changing it, regardless on if I could pull it off or not, I wanted to do that, the audience would know it. It may not be tangible. They may not put their finger on it and say, oh, well, this is exactly the same thing from last year, whatever. They'll just know it's not that excitement, that immediacy of like, this is a live arena rock and roll band, And there's a certain energy that exists in that portion of the universe that just makes it special and different and uncomfortable every time. And uncomfortable in a positive definition of it, not the wrong sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Use that word I was going to use also is tangible. Do you measure improvement in tangible ways? Are there benchmarks, or do you just know after 30 years of doing this when it feels how it needs to feel?
Mathematically and theoretically, being a student of music, there are those things that, are kind of put into play. But at the end of the day, it's just, does this feel extraordinary? Does it feel like it's the first time, And that's what I want, Sometimes I get into conversation with the band when we're doing production rehearsals, and I'll tell them the loudest thing that the audience is going to hear tonight is the silence between those two notes you just played. You know, and they look at me like cockeyed sometimes, like, what do you mean? And I'm like, think about it for a minute, you know. Dynamically, we have to explore dynamics that they're not, the audience isn't, they shouldn't know that. Maybe a lot of them aren't musicians, you know, but it's our job to take a look at all the details that are kind of like, you know, hidden from them. Because all I want that audience to do is go, oh my God, this is breathtaking.
Good stuff. Al Petrelli from Trans Siberian Orchestra in Wichita, December 6th. So what's happening with the band now? When do you start to really gear up? Well, I'm just curious because with a production like this, it doesn't happen if you get together, you know, the day before probably.
No, sir. Now, we've all been doing, like, you know, sectional meetings and groups. You know, the guitar players have been, you know, on Zoom, you know, going over ideas. I'm explaining what parts and songs we're doing. Same with the keyboard players and singers. Everybody's doing their homework because when we get to Omaha, Nebraska, and that's where we rehearse for about 3.5 weeks, that's not where you learn the song. That's where you learn to articulate the song properly with the production. And we will run that show twice a day, every day for, you know, a good, well, like I said, a little over 3 weeks, so that when I hit the deck in Council Bluffs opening night, it's a perfect first show. All right? But when I come to see you guys, which is, I don't know, about 3 weeks later, it might be my 25th show, but it's your first show. And I want it to be a perfect first show for you as well. So we will run it and run it and run it. And like they, you know, there's an old saying, you know, amateurs practice till they get it perfect, and professionals practice till they never get it wrong.
Hey, you made me curious. Why'd you pick Omaha to be the rehearsal city?
A couple reasons. One, it's smack dab right in the middle of the country. Prior to Omaha, we were rehearsing down in Lakeland, Florida, and it kind of painted the bands into a corner of, like, you know, you can't really drive that far to get to the first show, you know, or the second show, you know. Omaha, we can go in any direction we want. You know, we were within 300 or 400 miles of, you know, another community that's invited us back. And the other reason is it's one of the very few buildings in the Mid-America Center that can accommodate both bands, both sets of production being hung from the ceiling. You know, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of tons of stuff we got, but very few buildings can support all that weight simultaneously. So it gives us an opportunity to set both bands up, a mirror image of each other, and, you know, no constructional fears whatsoever.
Nothing like a Trans Siberian Orchestra show. Al Petrelli, their lead guitar player, has been our guest. Al, we really appreciate your time.
Always, my brother, and I appreciate yours. All my best to your family. Have a wonderful holiday. And we'll compare notes in a couple months and see where we are.
You bet.
Thanks.
All right, Al Petrelli, they'll be at the Intrust Bank Arena on December 6th. And his answer to the Eagles question was he's not gonna throw shade on the Eagles, but he made it clear that's not for me.
No, nor should it be for anyone. If you're an artist, I don't get it.
Well, we'll discuss it later.
Okay.
Where's their next show?
I think they go back to Newark.
Well, the fans seem to like it. They want to hear. A lot of the fan base just wants to hear the hits.
I know, and I'm not saying drop Lion Eyes. I'm just saying add Midnight Flyer.
Well, we'll see. Who would sing Midnight Flyer?
Vince.
I don't know if he would or not. All right,
I bet he'd love to sing Midnight Flyer.
We'll take a break. We'll come back with our second hour. If you get our radio segment posted, did you get that done?
I tried.
Take care of that. Get it up there.
Well, I'll let you try it also.
Well, I don't know how to. I'd send it to one of the administrators.
Well, do that.
You do that. This is the Bob and Jeff Show, KFH, hour number 2, straight ahead.